Got a gripe? Well, compliments are accepted too. The White House holds its online version of a town hall meeting 5 times a week, and you can ask top staffers serious policy questions, even silly goofball stuff. Jimmy Orr is the White House Internet Director, and he joins us this morning. Good morning to you.
Hey, Betty.
This is a very interactive site, almost like a blog. Why did you decide to make it so interactive?
Well, I mean, there's two key elements to our site, and because our main goal is to attract visitors, so we can communicate better the president's message. And so we have two elements that really draws people to the site, and one is the unique video offerings that we have. Anything from the very famous Barney Cam videos to the tours of the White House by the president and others, to interactivity, because interactivity will draw people to the site because it shows, one, that we're a very alive site, but two, it's the first time that really people have been able to interact with the White House or cabinet officials live on the site, and it encourages that interaction, so it's very important to us.
And you even have some pretty high-ranking officials taking some tough questions. Give us an example.
Well, we do have high-ranking officials on all the time, and they vary from the cabinet secretaries. We had Secretary Snow and Secretary Evans on last week. Tomorrow we have Secretary Page on, the education secretary, talking about No Child Left Behind. And to senior policymakers here at the White House Chief of Staff Andy Card was on last week for 2 hours because he enjoys doing it. But we also have behind-the-scenes professionals.
You can chat with him for 2 hours.
He was on for 2 hours, and the thing about Secretary Card is, the White House Chief of Staff, unlike some, he prefers to type the questions himself. Not the quickest typist.
Maybe that's why it took so long.
Yeah, only one question was answered. No, I'm joking. But, there were a variety of questions answered, and so we get behind-the-scenes professionals on too, which is always fun, like the gardener and the usher and others.
Now, do you rule out any questions? Do you kind of stay away from the hard questions and go for the softball questions, or everything fair game?
Everything's fair game, because I tell you what, if we only take the softball questions and put up the Republican talking points, the red meat for the conservatives, we're going to miss half the audience, one, but two, who's going to read it if they see it as something that's contrived or not real? And so we allow them to take any question they want to take, and there's a lot of hard questions they take, which is very important, but also a lot of goofball ones as well, or some goofball.
Let's talk about those goofball, because when you get any question, you're going to get any question. What are some of the most bizarre questions that you've had?
Well, you know, when we have, sometimes we get hundreds, sometimes thousands of questions per guest, and so the goofball questions do come out. Some of my favorites, on April 15th, on Tax Day, we had Secretary Snow on, the Treasury Secretary, and Pete from Naperville, I've got my notes with me, wrote in, "I can't afford to pay taxes this year, and I'm thinking about not filing. What are the chances I will get caught?"
And he gave his name and where he's from?
Yeah. He goes, "I'm not asking for your sign-off on ducking taxes, but if you are a gambling man, do you think I'll get caught? Thanks." And the Treasury Secretary asked him to pay his taxes, and I'm assuming that he did. We get a lot of bizarre ones. You know, we had Desiree Sale on, who is the director of Freedom Corps, the volunteer organization. Tony from Jersey City writes in, "I would like to volunteer at Hooters. Are there any openings?" I don't know if there was one or not. And then when the former Secretary of Housing was on, Mel Martinez, King Bloop Zod, who is a ruler of Mars, wrote in, "Although there are no humans on Mars at present, I would like to invite the human race to consider Mars as an ideal location for a vacation home. Would you consider offering incentives to those who might want to build a home on Mars?" And so we took that question, and
you took it very seriously, of course.
Well, there are no incentives right now, but it does two things. One, it makes the transcript more enjoyable to read, but the other thing, the media picks up on these when we answer the tough or the humorous questions, and so we get an extra media bump as well.
Jim Orr, you have seen it all. All right. Thank you so much for speaking with us today and answering our questions.
My pleasure. WhiteHouse.gov. We've got the Treasurer or the Education Secretary on tomorrow.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you.